Alright, I am live. Good evening and thank you for joining me. Today is Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. And as you can tell by the topic of this video, it's going to be about a volcano. One that's been simmering for quite a while. Apparently it's been simmering for about the past 500 years, but of this past 500 years, the most impressive unrest has been the last few years. The island has been one of the fastest rising volcanoes in the world, experiencing uplift rates exceeding 1 meter a year. In fact, this is what happened last year. I'm showing you last year's data. Right here you had a lava fountain. So indicating, thankfully, that this is degassed trachyte. This is degassed magma. You know, a lot of the magma, or not magma, a lot of the gases in the magma dissolved and thankfully escaped. They're fumaroles, meaning when the eruption did happen, it was low intensity. Still impressive, but low intensity. That is ash right here. That is right there. That's a lava fountaining right there. It's a lava fountain. And looking at Copernicus browser, I'm going to take you to last year. I know I've done this, but since this is a live stream, just in case anyone's joining who's not familiar with my videos, I do want to give them a bit of a recap. So, this is very close to the Asodai Fault, which is here. This hydrothermal area has been expanding for several years. In 2005, it was pretty small. This was all it was. It was near a desalination plant. Was it responsible for the unrest and the eruption? No. This was the hydrothermally altered area in 2005. It expanded a little bit in 2012. That's what it looked like in 2006. In 2017, it expanded significantly. Yeah, that is a major expansion of the hydrothermal area. See that ship right there? Yeah, I don't think that ship is there anymore. Because right before the eruption, that ship was probably there. That ship would have been right there. In fact, let's go to June. See if we can find a day it was there. Clouds. There's the ship. Ship was right there. And your erupting vent was like literally just a walk, like 30-second walk from the ship. And now we're going to go to 2026, to the present. Yeah, your ship would have been here. Yeah, I can't find the ship. It was obliterated by the eruption. The ship was literally wiped out by this eruption. That is your crater. There's literally two craters from the eruption, right here and here. In fact, since February, let's see what's changed since February. Yeah, so definitely some changes have been noted since February. Let's see. Looks pretty much the same. Uplift rates have been pretty slow. They've been expanding again a little bit. Probably why kind of looks like the island also wants to join. It looks like that is the extent of the island. I want to see it right here. It looks like the northern extent is right there. Wow. I believe that could also be because of tidal changes, because I think that's happened before. Let's see. You see how the maximum extent was here? And by June, kind of went this way. And then when we went to July, yeah, it kind of looked like it almost changed position. It could be because of clouds. Let me go to July 4th. Keep in mind, the southern tip of the island is right here. Let's go to July 19th. Yeah, so still a bit to go. It really looked like they almost wanted to join. Like, I swear, this came really close to joining. Like, yowza, that came close. Right? Yeah, it looks like some sort of glitch. Now I want to show you 1945 World War II map, just so you can understand the amount of uplift that occurred. Wow. Landing plan from 1945. Kame Rock. Yeah, it now looks like this. Imagine if they see the island now. Wow. And that's where the flag was planted here. All of this is now land pretty much. It's like, yeah. This island is absolutely insane. Most of your uplift has been on the northwest side of the island. Here, and a little bit here, but a lot of it on the west coast. There's been some uplift here. Most of it has been here. I mean, look at how much water is here. A lot of water. That is not there anymore. It's all land now. Yeah. Imagine if I go back in time and show them the current map of Iwo Jima. It will knock their socks off. It will be like, what the? Literally. This is insane. So the eruptions have been here. And, well, you want to know where that current vent that erupted? By the way, it's somewhere here. Because keep in mind, this was the rim fault. And the rim fault at the time was off the coast. Meaning it was like, that vent was somewhere in the ocean at the time. Kangoko Rock means prison island, by the way. So yeah. Very, very impressive. This is what the island looked like in 1945. This isn't a misdrawing of the island. This is pretty much what it looked like. I can even find you a really detailed map to show you how much water was here, like even more detailed than this crude drawing. I believe he died in the battle, yeah. March 26, 1945. He committed seppuku. Yeah. Yeah, see? That's credible. Not suicide. A seppuku is what samurai did. It's a more honorable way to go. It is believed that it is better to die with dignity than bring shame upon oneself and their family. It is very, very unfortunate, but that's what, even because they still had the samurai mentality at the time. They had the mentality that their emperor was literally a descendant of the sun god. Of course, that ended after the war, but there's still people who believe that. Like, the literal, like, the actual legal belief ended, but there are, of course, people who still believe that in the Shinto religion, and they're usually the more conservative faction. However, there's a lot of people in Japanese society that are averse to war, that are pacifists, even Shinto. It's always the extremists you have to be wary of. In fact, before Japan became, well, the Empire of Japan, and they went on this basically rampaging crusade through Asia and Southeast Asia, they were actually pretty democracy. They were pretty much a democracy known as the Taisho democracy, which started after the Meiji Reformation, which started in 1868. Basically, in Japan, you had a very nationalistic party that took over that had a lot of rural support. So, urbanites voted for more leftist parties, while the rural voters, who outmatched the number of people who lived in cities, put a warmonger party into power, and this expansionist party took over and began a policy of expansionism that started in the 1920s and really kicked off in the 1930s with the invasion of Manchuria and Korea. So Japan took over Korea around 1905. And the Battle of Iwo Jima was basically the biggest turning point in the war. It gave the Americans a huge forward operating base to use to attack the mainland and even plan an invasion. At the time of the invasion, there was already a plan to do the atomic bomb. So the purpose of capturing Iwo Jima was both to use it as an air base to do more raids on Japan, potentially even nuclear ones, but also to use it as a forward operating base for invasion, more likely the air option, because it had a lot of value as a solid air base for landing and refueling. The real reason they wanted to capture Iwo Jima was the runways. A big, flat, open land at the top of the Resurgent Dome. Very flat, perfect runway. So, okay, this is about General Kuribayashi. Tadamichi Kuribayashi. Tadamichi. Yeah, he was born in Nagano Prefecture. I believe it's pretty rural. Yeah, it is very rural, you can tell, yeah. So he grew up in a more conservative area. Central Spain, yeah, this area is very conservative. This whole region here was very, very conservative. Rural farmers, not really cattle, it was a lot of rice farming, but that was more by the ocean. Here it was more crops, because it's higher terrain, so colder crops. All right. Anyway, let's go back to Iwo Jima, back to the main topic of which is the volcano. And now let's look at this more updated map. Come on. I'm just gonna comment. Mm. I'm just typing. I'll show you what I wrote. Mm. All right. Here we go. They just sent me an alert that they detected an activity. Okay. A mile. Yes. I'm talking about a volcano, about Iwo Jima. All right. Alrighty. more sulfur. Yeah, I know, I'm just typing as I go along. 23rd. This is not a game. So I'm typing an explanation of how an eruption in Iwo Jima would affect the global climate. That's what I'm doing. I'm writing this on Reddit, so hopefully more people can see. So, in 2019, there was an eruption at a volcano known as Raikok, Raikok. That's a Japanese one. Raikok. The Raikok eruption wasn't that all powerful. It was VEI4, but the tropopause at that higher latitude, being so far north, was lower than in the tropics. So while if this was a tropical eruption, you wouldn't have had a major stratospheric injection. Maybe just a little bit. However, at that latitude, the tropopause was significantly lower by several thousand feet, meaning that the tropopause was lower by around like 50,000 feet. In fact, I could show you where Raikok is. So the Raikok eruption is at 48.2 degrees north. Even lower, 36,000 to 41,000 feet. Yikes. 15 degrees north. 52 to 55,000 feet. Yeah, so was 10,000. Look at that. 52,000 feet to 36,000 feet. Yeah. Yeah, so it was lower. All right. So I was off. So it's not 45, it was about 35,000 feet. June 29th, right? Nope, I do not want interactive. Nope, interactive. It was the 30th, but I just want to make sure, actually. Yeah, I think it was the 30th. Nope, it was indeed the 29th. No. Finally. 20. Tornadoes. Tornado.
Konrad dan euro pardon van mornatie.
All right. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go to YouTube. Of course. Oh. Dude, that's an extinct volcano. What are you talking about? Timothéa hasn't erupted in a very long time. fact, the dangerous part of the Canary Islands are like well east. Yes, exactly. This is something that happened. All right, actually, no, I'm gonna freeze this. Freeze. All right, let's go to this video. Bronx snow. Come on. It wasn't just snow; it was grapple. Yeah, that stuff that looks like leaves that are falling down or petals, that's actually snow. Alright, and now we go back here. Right. Alright, I commented. Alright. Good night, y'all. What will happen if I end up from the year 2026 in 1945? In the naval base, or at least near it, in on in the sea, and I'm with my smartphone, having pictures of modern Iwo Jima and modern maps. This was before the landing, as the landing occurred in March, while I arrived in February of 1945. And I was having maps of Iwo Jima, including the 1945 map. What if they see, looking at my ID, that I'm a U.S. citizen from the 21st century? What if I explain what it is? That this is a polycarbonate plastic, and that the holographic display is a security feature to prevent fraud. What happens if I start casually talking about the Manhattan Project and uranium and plutonium? What happens if I say I know about MP, but I will not talk about it because I want the U.S. to win. MP. What happens if I give them the code or the formula to build a hydrogen bomb, saying that a regular atomic bomb is not powerful enough? Oh. What happens if I said that we did it in 1952, but we need to do it to 1945 to send a message to the Soviets? I said that in the original timeline, they built Tsar Bomba, but we never had a nuclear war, and the Soviet Union collapsed under its own weight. What if I give them the map from 2026 and said that Iwo Jima will blow itself out of existence soon? What if I give them the map from 2026 where the island has already joined with Kangoku Rock? And is rapidly accelerating to join with Kangoku Rock along the northwest side, along the rim of the caldera. I explained that if it does erupt, it will be post 2026. I said it's still safe to land on the west coast and the east coast, as originally planned. I gave them the entire history of the battle, and I told them that I really am from the future, that I'm not a spy. I said that Harry Truman should have never became president, that it should have been Henry Wallace, that FDR made a mistake. But it's too late to change that. I said that Truman should not go on an anti-communist crusade. But we need to try to have the Soviets match our technology and bankrupt themselves. Period. I said that. McCarthy is a big threat. happens if I tell them that I am not a Stalinist and I am a Trotskyist? I said that I'm a Trotskyist and I believe in permanent revolution, overthrowing capitalism everywhere. I said that socialism must be overthrown not with violence, but with worker strikes, walkouts, people blocking streets. What happens if I do not advocate for violent overthrow of the government? What happens if I do tell the military that I'm a communist, but I believe that it should be done with the framework of the US democracy? What happens if I tell them I also support a ban on the death penalty, acceptance for people who are LGBTQ, teaching students about sex so they don't get unwanted pregnancies or STDs, or which is called then venereal disease? What happens if I tell him that the FBI should be used to stop violence and violent criminal activity, not political suppression? Oh shit! I'm still alive! I'm still alive! I'm still fucking alive!